Welcome to today's webinar, Deep Diving into Report Stories for SAP SuccessFactors. This is part of AKT's Insight series, where AKT has been an SAP partner since 2008. Hi everyone, I'm Michelle and a facilitator for today's webinar. All attendees are in listen-only mode. On your panel, you are able to ask questions through the text box, or alternatively, you can email info@aktglobal.com. Before I pass this webinar to our presenter, let me first introduce AKT to those who are first-time participants. AKT is one of the largest SAP Cloud People Solutions consultancies in the EMEA region, with more than 200 consultants in local businesses across several countries. We are a full-service provider of SAP solutions across SuccessFactors, SAP Sales Cloud, Qualtrics, and now WorkZone. So on to today's webinar. Over to you, Simon.
Hello and welcome to our deep dive webinar on stories in people analytics. My name is Simon Reynolds and I'm the SuccessFactors People Analytics lead at AKT, and I'll be taking you through the new tool today and some of the features and components. And so we'll start with looking at what is stories in people analytics. Breaking down the components and the features that are going to be of interest to yourselves. Then we'll move on to a system demo and the roadmap for the tool before making a brief comparison between the other existing reporting tools available to you today within SuccessFactors. And finally, running through some of the additional resources available. So kicking off with what is stories in people analytics. So people analytics, or stories in people analytics, is an embedded version of SAP Analytics Cloud. It's a business insights tool that's available directly to you within your SAP SuccessFactors instance, giving you access to live data from across the modules, making use of intelligent joins, secured by role-based permissions, so right down to the cell level, ensuring that users won't have access to data that they shouldn't be able to see within the system. And interactive insights, so you've got the ability to interact with the data displayed within these reports. So as a sort of single line, this tool allows you to tell compelling stories using a single solution with data from across the entire SAP SuccessFactors suite. Now, I'm sure many of you are already familiar with Report Center, and stories in people analytics will be available through Report Center, giving you a single place to manage all your reports. You'll be able to use the actions and interactions that you're used to. So you'll be able to run, edit, rename, delete, and label stories. This will give both admins and end users a single view and a single place to interact with the reports and the data they need. And one of the key selling points and one of the key strengths of this tool over some of the existing tools that are available is the linked analysis feature. So what does this mean? The linked analysis allows you to interact with various charts or pieces of data within the report and have the remainder of the report updated and filtered based on this information. It enables users to drill down into the data and gain more insights and answer questions that they might have without having to generate a new report. To further build upon this theme, there's a Data Explorer tool. So this makes use of the query that you've built. So when designing the report, and we'll come on to this later, you select various pieces of information you want to extract from your system. And the Data Explorer allows you to build upon this. So you've already controlled what end users are going to be able to access, but they can now change the way that the graph is displayed through choosing either to change the graph type or add additional pieces of information. Now again, and you'll start to see a recurring theme here, this will help to reduce the number of reports needed in the system, reducing the amount of maintenance required from a reporting admin perspective, and also easing the ability for end users to access the data they need. They'll be able to go to a single place to see what they're looking for, rather than having to remember which report gave them certain pieces of information. Now, data security is very important, and within stories in people analytics, it's automatically going to display data based upon the role-based permissions already defined within the suite. And this is all the way down to the cell level. So you no longer have to try and remember which report team domain obeys cell level permissions versus field level, for example. And so this allows you to serve more users with a single story. You can safely distribute the report to any user within the system in the knowledge that if they can't see the data currently, they won't be able to see it within the report. Now, we've talked about the interactions that a user can have within stories in People Analytics. Now, one of the other things you can do is to build up a story. So not only can you incorporate data from multiple modules within the same page and the same query, you can build multiple pages to hold different pieces of information to help a user visualize and understand what's going on within the business today based on this live data. And again, coming back to this theme, we can help reduce the number of reports needed. So how do you build a report within stories in People Analytics? So the design and build of a report can be broken into two main sections. So the first is the query design. This is where you define the raw data that will make up the report. And you can do this through the new UI, which allows you to easily build complex queries. And you can drag and drop in different tables, and then the available data will automatically update based upon which joins are allowed, reducing some of the complexity and knowledge required to build these reports. It is really quite a nice feature to use. One other point of note within the query design is the calculated columns feature. So this allows you to derive information that you don't currently hold within the data model. So here we have the examples of calculating either a colleague's anniversary or perhaps their age. Now, for the anniversary, this isn't something you want to hold within the data model, as you already hold the hire date itself. And so we can use this information to generate the anniversary date for this year based upon the hire date. And this can then be used within the story part of the report, where you can then visualize this information. Within the calculator columns, there are a number of different supported formula. These include functions like length, day, or is null, and there's many more available to you. Mathematical operators and conditions. So finally, offering the flexibility to calculate data that is not explicitly available in the schema. Once you've designed the query and defined which data you want within the report, we move on to the story design phase. This is where you design the pages of your report. So you select what type of chart you'd like to display. You pick which measures and dimensions this should be built upon. And then as you can build this up to tell the story that you want, you can add various different components, including charts, tables, images, shapes, and text. To give users a richer experience, you can then enable the linked analysis. So where we were talking about this interactive feature, This is where you can determine which charts should a user be able to click on to filter other parts of the report. Should it filter just certain charts? Should it filter the whole page? And it's really helps to build the interaction that a user can have with this report and the end user experience. And finally, you can also add which filters you'd like users to be able to update and which ones you don't want them to be able to update. Now, it can be quite daunting to build a story from scratch. And so as part of the offering that's been put out by SAP, there is a content store and a series of standard templates. Now, the standard templates cover 21 EC templates currently, based upon the EC Advanced Reporting standard templates. And with this release, with a release date set at the 11th of December, there will be a content store. Now, this content store will allow you to access these standard templates from directly within your instance, removing the need to download the template and then import it into the instance, helping reduce any friction in getting these reports and getting up and running with stories in People Analytics. Now, why would you want to import some of these standard templates? So we found, and especially in the past with some of the Canvas or ORD reports, that many customers want to base their report upon things that are already available with these standard reports. And often there's just a small number of changes that need to be made. And so as an organization, these give you a great starting point from which to adapt and meet your custom and specific needs. They're also a great learning tool. The ability to see a pre-made template within your instance and go in and inspect how it's been built really helps you understand the power and how the tool can be used. So we talked about standard reports, and there are a number of examples on this page here. And also at the end of the webinar, we will provide a link where you can access the communities page, which will have information on or when new reports or new standard reports are released. Okay. So next, moving on to a demo. So I'd like to take you into the system to see some of the power and what's possible with this new tool. So moving into the system. Here we have a HR dashboard giving a breakdown of headcount and FTE. And this is just an example of what can be done, and we'll use it as the basis to show you some of the features. We've got the count per employee type, the active employees, the total FTE, and a heat map with the count per gender and managerial level, and a pie chart with the count per gender. Now, when you hover over data, you get access to the figure itself, but also additional information which can be configured within the tool. One really nice feature, and we talked about it before, is the ability to filter. So here we're selecting best sale, and all of the other graphs and data within the page has been updated to reflect this. So now we can see the active employees within it and the count per gender. So removing that, the same we've got here with the employee type. So we can look at what's the breakdown of salaried employees. And again, the count per gender and managerial level and other charts have been updated. Now, a key part of the story is this multi-page feature. And here on the hire analysis, we've got information from the recruitment module alongside information from Employee Central. And although a lot of the tools around visualization, we also have tables as well. So you can see the raw data underneath as well. And a similar setup here with termination analysis. Now, coming back to the home page, we've got another very powerful feature, the Data Explorer. And here we're seeing the original count per employee type, but we can also go and change the chart type itself. So we can select other more suitable charts that the user may wish to see. So here we've changed it to pie, and then actually we'll change it to a bar chart as well. Now I'm just going to change it back again to our pie chart and come on to talk about, so here we've been looking at the count per employee type, but maybe we want to look at the FTE. And so within the Data Explorer, this is a feature that a end user, a report consumer, will be able to make themselves. Maybe we want to remove certain employee types. And again, all of this is available to the report consumer if, as the person building the report, you want to make it available to them. So here we've looked at existing measures and dimension, but you can also add additional dimensions as well. So maybe we want to come back to our earlier example and we want to add the company and perhaps filter by just one of the companies available. Yeah. Okay, so here we can see the FTE per employee type, and when we select the company, it's just going to take a moment to load, but it will then reflect this information. Now, one thing you might want to do is to save this view. So that's an option again in the top bar. We can add a new view and save it. We can update the name and we can set it as the default. This ensures that any views that are important to you or you'd like to reuse, you will have available to you when you next come back to the report. Okay, so we'll leave Explorer mode and we'll come back to the main dashboard. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into some of the interactions and the tools that can be made available to end report consumers. Moving back into the presentation, and we'll move on to the roadmap. So starting with what's available now. So within Stories in People Analytics, you already have access to live transactional data from these modules. And then in the next 12 to 24 months, we're expecting to see support for things like learning and Employee Central. Employee Central Payroll. It's worth drawing attention to there are a number of modules which aren't planned to be covered by Stories in People Analytics. These include SAP Jam and Onboarding 1.0, which has been replaced and is available today by 2.0, which is available today within the Stories in People Analytics. And Recruitment Marketing, which is available directly within the recruiting module, the Audit Framework, which generally doesn't need to be visualized, and other data from not within SAP SuccessFactors. Now, AKT does have a workaround to include any of this data which is either not planned or not yet available. And if you'd be interested in learning more about how we can help your organization report on this data today from within Stories in People Analytics, please get in contact. So moving on to the roadmap of features. So with the latest release, we've seen the release of the standard reports through the content store. So as I said before, will be available within the on the 11th of December. Then instance refresh support and user proxy support. If you'd like to learn more about any of these features that came out in the last release, please check out our other webinar on the release itself. Now, what are some of the features that we will see in future releases? So, as we've mentioned before and alluded to, Stories in People Analytics is envisioned to take over all of the reporting or majority of reporting needs within SuccessFactors. And as part of this, SuccessFactors are looking to allow you to embed this functionality within other modules. So in a similar vein to Insights, you'll be able to access the stories style data throughout different modules. Now, there'll be some support for this in the first half release in 2021, and then further support again in the second half release. Other significant features that will be added include integration to experience management from SAP and Qualtrics, platform shortcuts, enhanced data exploration, Stories deep link support, so ability to click on a colleague ID, for example, within the report and go directly to the employee profile within Employee Central. Mobile access, the ability to report on transient fields, including pay range penetration and comp ratio, and enhanced scheduling. Other features also planned for the second half include selectable field visibility, so allowing an end user to customize the fields they see within a particular story. So again, building on this idea of reducing the number of reports that need to be built and maintained within your system. Improved time hierarchy visualization, and support for local time and date data based on a user's location. So currently, it will display the server time. However, with this later release, they will support it based upon a user's location. So I think it's important to understand where Stories sits within the ecosystem and how it compares to other existing reporting tools within SuccessFactors. So just going to run through some of the existing tools and what we think their strong points are and where Stories then becomes beneficial over them. So starting with table reports, these will, and I think always will be, very powerful for data extraction and simple and quick to build. So these are things that users will require less training to do and can be used on an ad hoc basis to pull out the information they need in a CSV format, for example. The tiles functionality is useful still for the legacy homepage, giving you quick access to data and various performance indicators that you need at your fingertips. Now, personally, I feel the dashboards themselves will become obsolete with Stories reports. Because of this much richer experience you get with the interactive nature and the ability to combine data from multiple modules, I don't think we'll see less dashboards needing to be developed where you could do a far better job with Stories in People Analytics. So Canvas reports are still useful for complex data extraction. So if you need to pull data out of SuccessFactors to feed other systems or external BI tools, this would still be the route to take. And then Stories, which we've been talking about today, which is really a powerful BI tool directly available to you within SuccessFactors, giving you access to the live data throughout the suite, and really is the future of reporting within SuccessFactors. So some of the benefits of Stories. So I've already talked about the cross-suite nature of it, the ability to tell compelling evidence-based stories and give your report consumers access to data which previously they would have had to look in multiple different reports to see and understand. And building on that theme, we can reduce the number of reports needed within the system. And I've covered the other two, so I won't go back over them. So common questions we're getting from clients are around, are there any prerequisites to enabling Stories in People Analytics? And so one of the the key prerequisites here is the requirement to enable an upgrade to IAS, the Identity Authentication Service. This sits as a single sign-on layer, effectively, between SAP SuccessFactors and SAP Analytics Cloud, allowing you to run stories in People Analytics. Another question that comes up is around the support for Hebrew and Arabic. So currently, Stories in People Analytics doesn't support inline translation of these languages. However, SAP are working towards providing a solution for this in the near future. So which standard reports are available? We've covered a few of them already within this webinar, so hopefully that gives you a better insight into that. But we'll also provide a link a little bit later on to the community page where any updates are shared on this as well. So as we said before, SAP aren't looking to support accessing data from outside of SuccessFactors directly within Stories in People Analytics. However, we have a workaround for this. And so if you'd be interested in implementing that, and if that's something that's been putting you off implementing Stories in People Analytics, please get in contact and we can help explain and guide you through how we can find a solution to meet your reporting needs. And then in a similar vein, Qualtrics is not currently supported, but will be in the second half 2021 release. But if you need access to it sooner, please get in contact. So finally, moving on to some of the additional resources that are available to you today. So we've got the SAP Help Portal, which is a link here, and we'll also provide a link at the end of the webinar as well, which includes product documentation, implementation aids, administrative guides, user guides, and standard reports documentation, including more detailed technical documents on how each of the standard reports has been built. There's also the learning journey and the qualifications available within the Learning Hub to increase your understanding and knowledge of the tool, starting with the overview and then more in-depth training as well. And finally, the community. So we've got a couple of links here to activating Stories in People Analytics, the standard reports, which I've mentioned a number of times within this webinar, and then another page on the IAS or Identity Authentication Service migration process. So thank you. That concludes our deep dive webinar for today on Stories in People Analytics.
Thanks, Simon, for taking the time today to present. If you posted any questions today, we'll have email responses to you shortly. Feel free to get in touch with us via info@aktglobal.com, where we're happy to answer your questions about today's topic and provide further demos of SAP report stories for SuccessFactors. With that, we hope you have a good rest of the day and a great week. Stay healthy, everyone. Goodbye.